Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Better Satellite World, a podcast of Space and Satellite Professionals International. I'm Tamara Bond Williams, Membership Director of SSPI. Lou's out having his summer fun. This is the second part of our special Summer Fun interview with the original Satellite Groupies, and it is the last in our Summer Fun series. I'll tell you a little bit more about it in a moment, but first, these podcasts are supported by SSPI's corporate partner members, Hughes EchoStar, Northrop Grumman, Access Intelligence, and the law firm of K&L Gates. SSPI podcasts are also supported by the 3,000 members of SSPI and our network of chapters around the world. Thank you. You've heard me say it before. But unlike most trade associations, SSPI has groupies. Our origin story allegedly begins in a bar with a band of satellite enthusiasts who called themselves the Satellite Groupies. We met them in part one of this special edition of Summer Fun, and I invite you to join me for part two of this conversation, where we're going to learn something about gender neutrality and what it means to be pioneers of a fledgling industry. And now, part two of my conversation with SSPI's original official groupies.
In terms of video conferencing, is one of the things forgotten is the fact that I asked Arthur C. Clarke to be the honorary chair of the SSP when we formed it, but I also managed to get permission through Intelsat to beam him into the first planning conference for the International Space University. And we got him, Arthur Clarke, to do a double hop transmission to start the conference for the International Space University. But he told me afterwards, I'm never going to do that again, Joe. I had to get up and go out to the Earth Station at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I almost got trampled by an elephant.
Joe, if I remember right, didn't we had Arthur C. Clarke by satellite at the first gala at the GICSIS.
Yes, I believe that was, and we gave him the award too.
You arranged that.
That's right.
Yeah, we had Arthur C. Clarke did do it again. He did do another.
But let me explain. What we did is we put a feed in directly to his house. He had a small VSAT installed there. I know another time I came back that he had a Hayes modem that got fried by electric thing, and so I took it back to Washington. And I told the people that this was for Arthur C. Clarke, so they said there'll be no charge.
Wow.
I think our first gala.
So he could get back on
Our first gala was 1987 because we celebrated the 30th anniversary.
30 years in space. Yeah.
30 years in space with Sputnik. And Polly, you and I were big organizers of that.
I'm going to jump in and ask Penelope to comment, because Penelope, I got to know Penelope because of the gala. That's how I got to know Penelope. But Penelope had a lot of involvement with the industry way before doing SSPI Gala. But Penelope, I haven't heard from you yet, so let's hear from you.
Well, thanks, Tamara. And I just have to say, I'm just sitting here, just basking in the glow of these. Everybody, I've met all of you over the years. I have great fondness for all of you. Some of you are very dear friends of mine today. And I just feel very humbled to be listening to these amazing conversations. And I think anybody afterwards listening to this recording, I hope will also gain a great understanding of just how great and wonderful this industry is and how it started from such a such kernel of committed people. So, but with that said, I also have to be acknowledged that I didn't come on the scene until '85 when I joined Hughes Aircraft. And I think I first met most of you either that year, I think it might have been the Dallas Skunk. I can remember the bull, but I didn't know anybody. So I was sort of on the skirting the edges and thinking, who are these people? And I think it was Susan was one of the first ones to, sort of take me in hand. And I think she introduced me to Lynn and probably Arlene and several others of you at that meeting. But it wasn't really until after I left and came back here to Arlington in 99 that it was Maury Mechanic, who many of you remember, who approached me and asked me about, because I was just about ready to launch my own company. I was still at XM Satellite Radio then, helping to get that new satellite service off the ground. But so my first involvement with one of the galas, and I do still say gala, was in 99. And then in 2000, and that was as a volunteer chairman. And that's and then in 2001, I believe it was, I had launched Longbottom Communications, and then SSPI. We actually helped find and contract with the fledgling, Alan Anthony, was it, in New York, that became the administrator for SSPI. Anyway, so that was an amazing experience. And so from 99 to 2012, I believe, we, myself and just amazing groups of both, employees of my company as well as volunteers, we helped to grow this already very strong basis of this annual event that was started, as has been noted here by everybody, with all these, the initially informal and then more and more formal annual events into, a really quite a colossal 1,300 person, black tie, event every year during the annual satellite conference. Such an honor to have been involved in all of that and to have known so many people in the industry as a result of it. I could go on, but my stories are so insignificant compared to so many of yours, and I'm so enjoying listening. So just thanks for including me. It means a great deal. Thank you.
Okay, I just wait. I'm sorry. I have to pause here because, Penelope, you're saying, oh, my story. Okay, listen, your story is basically the beginning of mine, right? 2001, Alan Anthony took over management of SSPI, and within 2 months, I was hired. and so I started right then, and this thing that you all created and managed up until that point was so amazing. I'm stunned to have found out that that transition had just started. I knew that Alan Anthony had just taken over management, but I did not know that you were just now, only within a year, having been. I just thought that you were always the SSPI person until right after Polly, probably, right? That's just how I understood it. So I'm very honored myself to be a part of this story because I came on right at that point, and so okay, that was my little plug for Tamara. So we're all done with that now.
I want to mention, Polly mentioned in her email yesterday, and a couple of people have talked about the gathering, and I don't know what the conference was in Dallas when we all ended up at, was it Gillies, Bucky? Was that the name of the? Yeah. And I, 2 minutes before this conference started, I found my pin, which is right there.
Yep. Okay. I've got mine. There's mine.
And that is the Satellite Groupies. Even though it was all the way to 1987, we were still Satellite Groupies. We still had the spirit. We danced and we drank beer and we rode on the mechanical bull and we had a blast. And that's my recollection of it.
Who was really good at riding the mechanical bull? This is what I want to know.
I was dancing, not riding the bull very well. Yeah. I did it once and I'll never do it again.
One of the interesting things to think about with the groupies is that it is not really a one-time event. It's all repeating itself. For example, we had the Society of and then the Society of Satellite Professionals. Right now, I'm participating in another group, and for lack of a better word, because we don't have one, it's the Society of Lunar Professionals. And there are a group of young people, primarily young enough to be my grandchildren, who are very excited about lunar habitations, lunar mining, lunar data centers, and then thinking beyond that to Mars. So it just repeats itself with different generations. And we have the blessing and the luck of having been, for the satellite generation, something very special. And I'll always be grateful for that.
Let me ask a question about that. Okay, go talk first and then I'll ask a question.
I'd like to piggyback on that, what Del just said, because each of you were very supportive. And this was now the satellite mentoring with the first satellite SSPI satellite scholarship program. And Lynn organized the Bill Paragod, and Penelope organized the Hughes satellite scholarship. And each of you helped raise money. If every year we had between $60,000 and $80,000 to support young people entering the society. And I think it's important for the people who are now doing the satellite mentor and all of that to understand the origins were our scholarship program, which everyone contributed to.
Yeah, when SSPI closed its doors, its mission having been accomplished, there was about $30,000 in the treasury, and that was given to the scholarship for a new scholarship. Yeah.
I'm sorry, when SSPI closed its doors?
No, when PSSC closed its doors.
It's like,
Public Service Satellite.
we haven't closed our doors yet.
Forgot to tell you, Tamara.
I was like, oh, did something happen while I wasn't looking?
You know,
Listen,
one person that we really,
go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
one of the people that we really owe a lot to was Ben Fischer, because he is the guy who volunteered to do all of the incorporation and all of the work to get us down with a charter and build the business base underneath SSPI. And, you know, we really owe a lot to having had him involved in this.
That's right.
Yeah.
And another one who's no longer with us, who made a big difference, I think, was Bob Holland. Bob was the one who called it the Great International Celebration of Satellites in Space, the GIXs. And Bob, 15 years later, wrote a memoir or a memory of the event that we originally had, the first gala. And he wrote, 15 years later, he wrote about it. And he did a lot of writing and promoting of the first gala. So to Bob.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bucky, are you there?
Yes, I am. I'm enjoying this thoroughly.
Do you have the groupie-grams that you sent to all of us in front of you?
I do. I have a file full of them.
Well, I just thought that so that we don't forget that this is a reunion of the groupies, and so that everybody gets the spirit of what the groupies were about, that you might read, and if you don't have it in front of you, I could read just the beginning of the groupie-gram from Mike Caffarel, may he rest in peace.
I can. It was I received January 18th. I don't see what year this was, but anyway, dear satellite groupie, greetings from the current temporary headquarters of the as of yet unofficially unnamed satellite affiliated persons organization. My life as board of directors has been one of the most exciting of my life. It was a month as board of directors. The December 16 meeting in Washington was in the holiday spirit. Most discussed topic was Xerox's sale of WUI. Pin the feed horn on the antenna contest was won by Hugh Frater of ACSN. Goal for the next year's holiday season, simultaneous East and West Coast chapter teleparty. This group was developed to serve as a conduit for information, ideas, jargons, and jokes. To that end, this board, B-O-R-E-D, and those succeeding would like to solicit your input to this monthly update, which will be written by a different board each month. In keeping with the Anaheim tradition, I am pleased to make the following appointments. Official Board of Directors, President Ed Egan, Vice President of Communications Mike Caffarel, Treasurer Ed Egan, Secretary Ed Egan, Janitor Ed Egan, Second Meeting Organizer Ed Egan. Anyway, it goes on like that, and we had several of these. Mike was very nice to allow us to communicate through that, what seems ancient technology now, but was very effective, and you just didn't want to miss the meeting. I warned Mack about that if he didn't come this time, he would be the chairman of the board, because I sense that maybe we would like to have a real in-person meeting sometime, and I might suggest something later, but Zoom is great, but I might volunteer to be board of directors for a meeting of all of us together somewhere.
Here, here.
Oh my
Bucky, I
gosh.
was surprised when you sent this yesterday. It's my name at the bottom of that.
And you did indeed,
Six
yes.
more forever, Lynn Fischer.
Yes, 6 more, and then you had sad boy to sad girl stuff on there that we won't discuss, but it was quite an
Those
interesting.
were the jokes. Those were the jokes that had to come at the end of the official groupie-gram.
Oh my gosh.
It's
I was
important,
passing the baton. I was passing the baton.
in 1982. That's the year of this groupie gram, and I think it is clearly. Is it the first one, Bucky?
I think that might be the first groupie-gram. I'm gonna have to look through them. When Tamara called me, I don't think she knew how excited I got. It was, I'm retired. I built a new place in Colorado. I've had stuff going on, and then all of a sudden I've come to a point where it's, gee, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? And the number one thing was this. And I was sitting there, how am I going to get in touch with all those people? I don't have their email addresses. I mean, I have old ones, but I'm sure that, maybe somebody has the same email address, but most people won't. So when she called, it was like, perfect. So I'm sending her the list of all of our membership, which included all kinds of people that weren't really in the group, but senators and, all kinds of important people to sort of, gin it up a little bit. But anyway, I'm so pleased to be able to participate in this and to see all of these good friends again.
Wonderful. I want to ask a question. We're coming to the end of our time, and
No.
Well, I want to ask this question, and this I had said questions ahead of time, but you guys are so robust that you're covering all my questions ahead of time. So I'm like, all right, let's go in a different direction. We're in a new place in the industry. We've been here for a couple of years now of this new startup, new kinds of constellations and so forth and so on, and it's very, very exciting, and it feels to me like a similar moment as to when you all were starting. Are you seeing a similarity? Those of you who are still kind of in touch with the industry, are you guys seeing a similarity between the moment that we're having now as people are trying to figure out, new constellations and how to make a business work in these new kinds of formats? And if so, what kind of, good advice would you give to these folks coming and following in your footsteps?
I'd say buy a Starlink terminal. I'm on the beta, and I got 273 megabits on the download the other day.
Thank you, Bucky.
Ooh. That's a very profound question at this stage in the day, Tamara, I must say. We've been a bit serious a lot so far, I guess.
What's changed with everything is now that we're into space 2.0, and it's no longer a situation where it's government-based. It's now public-private partnership-based, PPP-based. And for any of the young people, the best mentoring advice that I give is you need to anticipate the direction. Are we going to see large structures in geosynchronous orbit? Are we going to see satellite clusters? Are we going to have a disaster with low Earth orbit? And it's all going to be done through the private sector. You cannot get rid of the Elon Musks and the Jeff Bezoses and the Richard Bransons, and they are going to be playing in the new game. And it's going to go way beyond the word satellite. That's what I meant to say a few minutes ago as well. We're going to be seeing different things in space. Satellites will become a more minor part of that, but the structures, the organization, what we do with the planets, that's the future, and that's the direction for the younger generations, I think.
Cool.
I think the other thing that has changed, I mean, well, everything has changed, but when most of us started in the satellite industry, first of all, it was analog. Secondly, it was
C-band.
It was C-band. It was 90% of it was about broadcasting. It was cable television and then broadcast television. And I do see parallels to what's happening now, because everything that's happening now is digital. It's all about the internet. It's there's much greater emphasis on the billionaires who are supporting the industry. The satellite industry has moved much closer to the space industry and space exploration. So there's enormous change in the industry. And I'm sure that it's just as exciting to the young people that are starting out the way we did, you know, in the late 70s and early 80s. It's just as exciting today to those young people. And to the extent that I can understand anything that they're talking about, I'm really enjoying the new developments in the industry.
But I also think it's so important in all my years of teaching, which goes back, 38 years of being a communications professor, that they understand the history. And satellite, low Earth orbit, Starlink, it just didn't come out of anywhere. There was a whole sequence of events and developments and applications that preceded that. And just to develop an appreciation for what transpired previously. For example, if you remember, there used to be lots of rocket failures. So if SpaceX or whatever has a failure, that's part of the game. That's part of the development of the industry. And I feel it's important for them to understand the internet just didn't appear. There had to be a whole sequence of the development of communications technologies to where we are today. So my advice to the youth is to look also at the past.
Arlene, you talked about history. Anybody remember these?
Yeah.
Joe Pelton's Space 30. Remember the orbiter?
Yeah.
That's some history.
I think another thing that's interesting in our business is, especially on the broadcast side, we've gone full circle. Back in the early days of the groupies, most broadcast television was sent via landlines, AT&T landlines. In the late 70s, we started to switch over to satellite, and that's when most of us started getting into the business. And go full circle to now, I look out my window here in Tyson's Corner, and there must be 50 dishes out there. But equally as important is the distribution has now gone full circle. Now it's back underground, it's back on fiber. So it's all come off of the satellite, or not all of it, and it's gone on fiber. So we're back underground like we were back in the AT&T landlines.
And that's because of the internet.
Yep.
But for the next generation, the questions are different. My eldest grandson, Roman, is researching at the present time the place of the Space Force on a civilian lunar habitat. And the phrasing of that to us is just wild. And yet to him, this is a very common, a very first step in getting interested. We're talking with other of the young people that I mentor with space psychology. We're looking at all sorts of different topics. And I say again that the new groupies are forming as we speak in this program this morning. They're out there and they're starting just like we did. Peter, they're going to end up going to Dubrovnik and sitting there as you and I did. They're going to end up on Mechanical Bulls and they're going to have and this is better than a friends reunion. This is a real reunion of people who have spent a lot of time together, and that's why it's such a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah, don't you wish, Del, we were all 30 years younger? We could do it all again, couldn't we?
Well, I was hoping
We could still do it again.
I have a trip planned to the East Coast. I don't travel much these days, but the end of September is a time. But other than that, I could show up at a more convenient time for everyone else. But September 28th was a date I was going to be in Washington.
I'm available.
I'm available too.
I'm gonna make a suggestion, and okay. I would love for you guys to all get together, and I hope I'm invited if you get together in September. We'll start there.
You will be.
Thank you. Yay. But I also want to just say I'm really excited about you all coming together with this wealth of experience of being on the frontier, and the ways in which that the majority of you are in some way mentoring young people already. And so I would love it if you all would just put in the back of your mind, we're hoping that, you know, the pandemic allows us to go forth with our existing plans to gather in California in October for the Future Leaders Dinner. I would love for you all to be there because we're going to be honoring 20 young people under the age of 35. When we do this every year, one of the most amazing things that happens is watching them get together. They are amazing, and the energy that they bring, I would love to introduce you to them. So I just want you all to put that thought in your mind. It's at the
What's the date?
I believe it's going to be October 5th. It's during the Satellite Innovation Show at Mountain View in the Computer History Museum.
And then you're all invited.
Yeah, it's just an amazing thing to come see you.
You're all invited to come to Monterey. I have a beautiful home. And right before that event is the Monterey Jazz Festival, everyone. You can make a little bit of a trip and I can put up a few of you.
Okay. Thank you.
Monterey.
There you go. Bucky's talking about September 28th. Is that right? And you're talking
about Washington. Bucky's talking
about, and we're also talking about those of us on the West Coast or closer to the West Coast.
September 28th in Washington and Mountain View, October 5th. Are those, am I right about those two dates?
Those are the dates.
Okay, thanks.
And I'm flexible.
So if you just look around this call, one of the things that I find interesting about this call and the industry pioneers is how gender neutral it is. We've got more women on this call than we have men. And as a result, it's not all white old men who ran this industry. This is a real broad group of people.
Do you think the groupies, seriously, do you think the groupies would have gotten started with men only?
No, never would. You needed somebody to organize. That would be us.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, Mac, because I participated in an event that Tamara organized, a new group, Women in Space Entrepreneurs. Is that the name of it? WISE?
Women in Space Engagement, SSPI WISE.
Women in Space Engagement. And there are all these women who looked like we were in the 1980s and 90s and early 2000s. And when I listened in on this meeting, I realized they didn't know anything about the women who preceded them.
Yeah.
And those of us who helped form SSPI and the roles we played and the gender neutrality that Mac just. So I think organizing that with WISE, having some of us women participate in a meeting with them would be very beneficial for them to understand us elders who came before them.
Speaking of elders, Tamara, you are just amazing to have put this together. First of all, you probably weren't even born when the groupies started. And you certainly couldn't have known anything about us. So the fact that you organized this is just amazing. I just want to thank you. And everyone, let's join me in just applauding Tamara.
Yeah.
Well,
Susan.
I have to applaud you all back. You are all inspirations to me. And I was in fact born when the groupie started. But no, I had never heard of you. And I came into the industry and was dazzled by all of you, just like, wow, these amazing people. And so it is my honor. I'm so grateful that you all showed up and were willing to be here and share your stories with me. And I will say I'm also really grateful that my boss allowed me to do it, because I was like, I'm doing it. I didn't ask permission. I just announced that I was doing it, and they're like, oh, all right. So, but I'm so happy that you're here, and I learned so much from all of you, and I do hope that we keep it going, because I think there's so much richness here.
There was a very special time when the groupies were around. In 1978, 1979, and 1980. And those were the 3 years of the beginning of a magazine that no longer exists called Satellite Communication. And if you have any archive copies in your basement, they're worth a lot of money these days. But
I'm
if
sure
you
that.
want to have a research session and look at what we thought in those 3 years, what were the important things to talk about, the important things to write about, and then look at juxtapose that to today, you'll find that it was a very, very prescient group, whether it was ComSat Labs or whether it was satellite business systems. There were things happening that some of them made it, some of them didn't make it. And looking at that can give you an interesting perspective. These are the bound volumes of those 3 years. And if you have your own, you might take a look and see what was important to us when we were young.
I had a complete set of satellite communications magazines, but I sent them to the museum. Was it ComSat Labs or where's that? Anyway, it's a while ago, but the complete set of that, and then the early years of Via Satellite. So
wow.
They're around somewhere.
Does Via Satellite or Satellite News still exist?
Via Satellite does, yeah.
Yes.
Satellite News still does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Everyone, thank you so
Tamara.
much. That concludes our conversation with the Satellite Groupies. I want to thank them all for joining me in this conversation and for sharing with us the original living history of SSPI and our industry. Many thanks to our corporate partners, Hughes EchoStar, Northrop Grumman, Access Intelligence, and the law firm of K&L Gates. If you would like to become a member of SSPI, go to sspi.org. And if you're a student, your membership will be free. For all the rest of us, membership is just $100 US. You can learn more about supporting our podcast series, and particularly 2 upcoming series that we are looking forward to as part of our Better Satellite World, one on satellite and climate change, and the other on the new public-private partnership. You can learn more about these by contacting me directly at tbondwilliams, that's tbond-williams at sspi.org. Follow us on Twitter at SSPI, and look us up on LinkedIn and Facebook. And don't forget to send in your nomination for the Better Satellite World Awards. We're looking forward to seeing all the new and amazing stories that make ours a better satellite world. The deadline for nominations is September 30th. For Space and Satellite Professionals International, for Lou Zaccarilla, our producer, Anna Gomez, and for me, Tamara Bond-Williams, let's make it a better satellite world. Thank you.